Well, good evening and welcome to Plummer Place. And Kelly is back.
I'm back. Thanks,
Okay,
Harry.
she was on vacation the
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
Actually, we did a whole month of Plummer's Place.
You did. Thank you.
Because we've been talking senior info all month.
Mhm.
Thanks to
Yes.
Russ Swallow.
Russ Swallow, I
I
know.
owe
Yes.
you one, Russ. Thank you for stepping in for me.
In fact, we're going to be doing it again in about 2 weeks. But anyway, our guest tonight is Peter MacDonald. And Peter has been in assisted living now for a number of years.
18 years as
18
the
years.
executive director at Sunrise Assisted Living in Leominster. Yep.
And so you're
Yeah.
familiar with what we're going to talk about tonight, and that's Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I've also been a volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association for about as long, and it's a passion of mine.
Yes. And was it in early September you had the walk?
The walk is coming up.
Oh,
I
it's
don't know if
coming
you
up.
can see the sign. It is
Oh.
October 6th.
There we go. October 6th. Okay, so that's next week.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to click on that QR
Sunday?
code or alz.org/walk, or you can Google Worcester, Google ALZ Walk Worcester. It'll bring you right to the page. And we have a very big goal this year. We have a goal of $640,000, if I recall. Let me just, I'll tell you exactly. $640,000. We're about 65% on our way to that.
Oh, that's good.
But out of
Fantastic.
the over 600 or so walks in the United States, we are generally in the top 20 or 30 walks.
Oh,
So in like the top 5% of walks nationally.
Wonderful.
So many hands make light work. You can come and walk, you can donate, you can start a team. It's probably too late to do that for Sunday. Just come and enjoy. Many people will have informational booths there. But if you remember anything from this segment, please remember alz.org. Because there's a lot of information on that, including an 800 number, which is available for 24/7 caregiver support. And caregivers hold a special place in my heart because, you know, I've seen over the years married couples and one develops dementia, the other doesn't have it, and one becomes the caregiver. And it is a 24/7 job. You have to sleep with one eye open.
yes.
So the money that we use is used for research, caregiver support, helping with clinical trials so that we can see if we can come up with some treatments and someday, hopefully, a first survivor of Alzheimer's disease.
But yeah, it seems like it's becoming even more and more prevalent. Like we talked off here, it's because people are getting older,
Sure.
Living longer.
living
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah, the incidence of being diagnosed with dementia is directly proportional to age.
Right, and we also got the baby boomer generation, which is large.
Which throws in a huge cohort of people
Yes.
that even if the incidence, the per, cases per 100,000 doesn't go up, the 100,000 is going up to
Yes.
a million.
Yeah.
Right, so it's becoming almost epidemic.
The Alzheimer's Association is now calling it a public health emergency. It's a disease for which we have no cure.
Right,
In the last, from 2020 to 2021, the incidence of death from Alzheimer's disease increased 141%. Deaths due to heart disease decreased 2.1%. Now, 2.1% isn't a huge number, but there's a trend starting,
right.
right? But the heart, a very important organ, I mean, you're not going to live long without it. But
Exactly.
we have good treatments.
Yes.
We have good drugs. Our brain is the most complicated thing on this planet. We just haven't figured out how all the pieces fit together.
Which
but
is-
we're getting there.
We're only
As I say, but
recently
made
knowing
great
a lot
strides.
about the brain, right?
Every month when scientific literature gets published, or even less than a month, there's new data, there's new research, and very recently announcements that we've figured out how to do blood tests, a simple blood test to look at biomarkers for dementia.
Right.
Wow, that's.
Tests of the cerebral spinal fluid, more invasive because it's a spinal tap,
Right,
but looking for those abnormal proteins circulating in spinal fluid because that's part of what's bathing the brain. And also genetic testing for a gene called APO4 that if somebody tests positive for that sequence of genes, 90 to 95% chance they're going to be diagnosed with dementia. In fact, that is a diagnostic standard.
but there are
So,
things you can do to try to extend your time without it, right?
right, so it's important to get diagnosed early because up to 40% of dementias, it is theorized, but around 40% of dementias can be inhibited or prevented with lifestyle things.
Ah,
So there's things we can control and things we can't.
right,
The things that we can't, aging, our genome, we get that from mom and dad.
yes,
No matter what you do, every cell in your body is screaming mom and dad all the time for the rest of your life. You can't do anything about that. The lifestyle changes that you can make are things that you can do something about. And it's always better to do those sooner rather than later. Because you can't always undo the damage,
True.
right? You can't always undo the damage. I've had residents that have said, well, you know, I stopped smoking when I was 55. When did you start? I was probably 15 or 16. Okay, I'm really glad you stopped, but it's not like you've got bright, shiny lungs anymore. It's the same thing with your brain health. Everything is interrelated. Everything is interrelated. If you're particularly doing good stuff for your heart, you're doing good stuff for your brain.
I look at the brain, I always look at the brain as being a muscle. It's-
It needs exercise.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look
And
at
the
it.
way of exercising your brain is to read, to watch the right TV shows, not things that are just, that you don't, you know.
Keep yourself active.
Yeah, to make you think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen to the radio, and now you can listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Things that'll make you think and makes you
Right.
use your brain.
Exactly.
Right. And those are choices, right? Let's talk about diet for a minute.
Yeah, that's a big factor.
Diet is a huge factor for our overall health. Diet and exercise. We are the only organisms on this planet that pick what we eat. We put them in a grocery cart and we check out.
Yeah,
Every other organism on this planet gets what swims by, what they can catch. You know,
Yeah.
if you hear caw up in the sky, they're coming down for something none of us want to even get
No.
close to.
Right.
No.
They're opportunists. We get to pick. So what do we pick? Do we pick an apple, or do we pick that plastic cup with the foil top with blue colored applesauce in it?
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Do we pick a piece of wild caught sockeye salmon, or do we pick a fried fish sandwich at a fast food place?
Right.
Right.
Right? We get to make those choices. Now, that's complicated by things like the social determinants of health. Not everybody can afford to have the best food, and if somebody's working 2 jobs, they're not going to have the time to prepare great food for their family necessarily. So it's not always a fair fight when it comes to the choices that are available to us. But at whatever level we're at, we want to make the best choices. Diet, exercise, sleep. Sleep is incredibly important. You want to get between 6 and 9 hours of sleep a night. Less than 6, bad. More than 9, bad. I don't know why more is
I was
worse.
gonna say, why is more worse? I
don't.
wonder.
I'm not sure.
I can't imagine doing more than 8 or 9, but still, I'm wondering why it would be
Yeah,
worse.
that the
because you're
research.
not moving around.
The research that I've read says that's 8 to 9 is the sweet spot, and be consistent about it. Have good sleep hygiene. Get long stretches of good sleep.
Well, you think about it, a day is 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
A third of it is 8 hours.
Right.
So that's your sleep time.
Right.
8 hours of pleasure, 8 hours of work.
Right. It's theorized that our circadian rhythm, that 24-hour clock that our body has
Yes.
developed back since we sort of climbed out of the mud, is very important to our brain
Yes.
health. It's also shown that people that work third shifts have a higher incidence of cognitive disorders, of dementias.
I can understand that.
Interesting.
We're not we're not night people.
No, I give a lot of credit. I love my third shift people are watching. I love my third shift people.
Well, we need them.
You need, not only do you need to have a caring heart to care for people with dementia and others, but to be able to do that in the dead of night
Yes.
is, some people are just built for it. It seems
amazing.
very unnatural to most of us, though.
We gotta keep this going, but I know you've got some announcements.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, so why
But
don't we get
Let's
that?
hear it.
we can do them later. We can
All right.
continue on.
Well,
because this is
Aaron,
very interesting.
Can you put up that slide of the brain?
There we go.
There we go.
Good.
And this
Nice.
is great. I got this from the association because I give every year.
Thank you.
And
Thank
they
you very
send
much.
they send this in the mail. And I said, wow, this is interesting.
It is.
You can see how the brain changes with
Yeah.
Alzheimer's.
Yeah, so it changes at different levels. This is sort of the morphology of the brain, so the gross appearance of the brain. And this is the death and sort of dissolution of brain tissue. I wouldn't expect anybody to remember all of the parts of the brain, but if you look under the healthy brain, you see that the hippocampus, and then that's shrinking, and in some cases it may even disappear, or just has the appearance of being damaged. The hippocampus is where our memories seem to get cemented. So that's a very, very important indicator of what could become an issue with one's memory. But in general, years ago, the only way to confirm an Alzheimer's diagnosis was at autopsy.
Right.
There are more tools to do that now with an MRI and and a PET scan and
Yes.
other tools that can happen. So a lot of this information was gleaned through studies done by the NFL and
Oh,
football
right.
players.
Yes.
Because even without a concussion, traumatic brain injury, you don't have to be concussed.
right.
Head trauma, even without concussion, multiple times over a period of time will lead to dementia.
Of course.
Wow.
I know they're trying things with helmets and different rules and so forth, but it is it's a very risky game, not from the concussion standpoint, not from the broken bone standpoint or the ruptured ACL, but the long-term, not yet seen effect of that player developing it.
Well, we see that in a lot of retired players.
as they age. Absolutely. Definitely.
Along with
And-
increased levels of depression
Yeah.
and
Yes.
suicide, or at
Yes.
least suicidal thoughts.
Right.
So our brain is fragile. We really need to take good care of it. But diet, exercise, sleep, those are the big ones that we can really facilitate on a daily basis. They're preventative, and the sooner you make good choices, the less of a chance you will develop a dementia.
Now, can dementia come on from somebody injuring the brain, like a fall?
Yes. So traumatic brain injury can cause dementia, or it can accelerate an underlying dementia. Dementia is broken up into three parts: early, moderate, and late. There's actually two steps before that. One is preclinical, where it's developing but we can't tell, and then early biomarkers become available. So the blood test, the protein in the cerebrospinal fluid, before somebody can't remember what their car keys are for, right? One of the tests is we all lose our car keys, right,
Right.
Kelly? You forget where you put them.
Sure.
But when you find it, you know what it's for.
Yes.
Right.
That's you go from mild to moderate at
normal
that point,
Thing.
right?
Yeah.
So if we can get people diagnosed earlier, they can make good choices. But TBI is a definite marker for developing Alzheimer's.
We hear of people with Alzheimer's, they'll go for a walk and forget where they are, right?
Yes.
Now, they knew where they were when they took off.
They had a plan.
They had a plan.
And this is why a lot of residents come to me, is because it has gotten to the point where emergency services has become involved.
Yeah.
And we'll call her Sally, was found by the police walking onto Route 2 in Leominster at the state police barracks. They picked her up. They were able to figure out who she was, brought her home. Okay, sorry, Mom got out. We're usually better at watching her. Later that night, she did the same thing.
Yeah. I mean,
And instead of bringing her home, the police brought her to the hospital.
Right.
She had a plan, but it was an unsafe plan. And nobody wants to see somebody with dementia walk up onto the highway in the dark.
No.
Oh, my God, just to think about that. That's unbelievable.
Scary.
Now, is amnesia a form of dementia?
No, amnesia is temporary. So that's a really good question, Harry, because people ask me that all the time when I do these. I'm also an educator for the Alzheimer's Association, so I'll come around to different groups.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
So I've done everything from a small church group of, I don't know, a table of 12, I'll say, because it was church, to groups of almost 100 people. But the question I get is, what's the difference between amnesia and dementia or delirium? Dementia is chronic, it's progressive, there is no cure. Amnesia is transient, and in general, it will clear. It may not clear 100%, but it will clear. Same thing with delirium. Delirium is generally due to an infection. A lot of seniors get urinary tract infections or
Yes.
UTIs.
Yes.
And that can cause a delirium, which it's like somebody is out of their mind.
Yeah.
They may not remember, they may do unsafe things, but once you cure the underlying issue, the delirium clears. So delirium, amnesia short-term, dementia,
So
it's there.
an internal infection can affect the brain.
Oh, absolutely,
Oh, I never knew that.
absolutely. We have a blood-brain barrier.
Yes.
Just something like a fever can affect the brain.
Yeah, I knew
It's
that,
all
yes.
it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah, you can be delirious with a fever.
Right.
Yes.
And you know we have a second brain.
Oh, I didn't know we had a second.
Our
brain.
gut, our microbiome in
Ah.
our gut is now known as the second brain.
Oh,
The vagus
So
nerve.
is that when they say go with your gut instinct?
Go with your gut. And you know
yeah,
what?
that's where that
I,
came from.
I,
Right?
I will sound very stereotypical, but women have better guts. They have better intuitions than men.
Yes.
And I'm
I would
convinced it's because you've got better bacteria in there than we do.
Oh, yeah,
I'm convinced.
probably.
I'm convinced of that. But that sends information through the vagus nerve up to the brain. And what you eat for dinner today, within 2 hours, is going to be sending, actually in less than an hour, will be sending information to your brain. It will be saying, you're not satisfied yet, keep eating.
Okay, yeah.
Or, oh, yeah, that was a good meal. Turn off the hunger hormones,
Oh,
and you feel satiated. The bad choices we make in food, the engineered foods, are designed to make us less full. They're designed to, you don't want that small fry, you want to supersize it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
True.
isn't there something?
Yeah.
See, never thought of all these things.
It's, everything is integrated. There isn't one part talking to the other. Between the biome and those bacteria have more DNA than we do in our body. I shouldn't say DNA, RNA. They have more nuclear material than our body does on its own. So it is a symbiosis that's working together to keep our bodies working well. And our brain, because our brain is what makes us us. And that's the difficult part with dementia, right? I mean, somebody can have cardiovascular disease, heart failure, COPD, difficulty breathing, but they're still themselves.
Right.
Right.
To the point that their oxygen levels, and then they're not. They can have really bad diabetes, but they're themselves. Dementia is a disease of the brain, and you saw on the slide, shrinking the brain tissue. And then the tissue that's left, the stuff that you can't see, the communications, cell to cell, is being interfered with. You lose your memory, you lose your personality, then all of the automatic parts of your body can start to decay as well.
I had read somewhere where what part of the dementia coming on is the connecting. Your brain is all wires, and it gets a coating on them. It prevents the electrodes from connecting, right?
Two things. Think of, they're wires, and they have insulation around the wires.
Right.
But the wires aren't all connected. In between the cells, there's a small space called a synapse. And chemicals need to work to send the impulse through here, across the synapse, through there. And the reason the brain is so complicated is because there's so many of these. And there are so many pathways. The proteins that we're talking about, the beta amyloid and the tau proteins in Alzheimer's disease, one is in the synapse, one is in the neuron. So the impulse inside the neuron has a difficult time transmitting. And then when it gets to the synapse, there's another bad protein in the way, and it can't go past. So those neurons in the hippocampus, where we're trying to form our memories, that file cabinet
Right.
of memories we talked about before we went on air, isn't working.
It's like a short circuit.
It's a short circuit, and that impulse just dies out.
Yeah.
So when you try to go back and find your memories, your brain is going, okay, where is that memory? We've all had this, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know this person's walking up to me.
Yes.
I know their
When it-
name, and I'm going to say, hey, how are you? Oh, and hope.
Yes.
And those impulses aren't returning the data. Now, there's general age-related memory challenges. That happens. And in that case, I think of our brain as a computer hard drive.
I was going to say, it's similar to a computer hard drive.
You're exactly right. it's not completely the same, but it's a good analogy. You get a brand new
Right.
computer, the hard drive is nice and clean, it isn't fragmented,
Right.
you don't have all of this bloatware and software on it, and it's running really good.
Yep,
You load all kinds of programs, you put all kinds of data in there, and it starts to slow down,
Yep.
yep,
right? Your brain at 20 is very different than your brain at 80. It only has a quarter of the information at 20. It only has a quarter of the experiences, the people you've met,
Right.
the experience, everything,
yeah, it's
the
like
books
loading
you've
up the
read.
hard drive.
And as the hard drive gets more full, access time is slower.
Yes,
Access time is slower. So that's fine. You will eventually get there most of the time. You will eventually go, okay, I remember that person's name.
yeah,
It may be when you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and
Yeah,
go,
yes.
oh, that was Steve,
Yes,
right?
I knew that.
yes,
But so age-related memory challenges are typical. Dementia is not.
No.
Dementia is not a normal part of aging. However, at age 45, there's about a 1 in 5 chance, if you're a woman, that you're going to develop dementia at age 45.
Wow.
1 in 5.
Wow.
If you're a man, it's 1 in 10. And
Isn't that interesting?
we don't completely understand that, but there are a lot of hormonal studies going on right now, but that research is very young.
That's scary.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And those numbers at age 65, those numbers double
for women,
for both.
or for both.
For both, yeah.
For both. So men, instead of being 1 in 10, go to 1 to 5.
Uh-huh,
And for women, instead of 1 in 5, it goes to about 1 in 3. Right.
now, a lot of people with dementia have great memories of earlier of time.
Mm-hmm.
They're long term.
Is that because, here again, the hard drive is only connecting to the old memories and not the new memory?
In a way, yes. I'll ask you to use this as a visual. Think of your memories as a file cabinet. A vertical file, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's just one drawer, and it's really deep. And when you open that drawer in the morning, yesterday's memories are in that first manila folder.
Right.
Your most distant memories, and I'll tell you, I had a resident that celebrated her 100th birthday,
Oh.
maybe 15 years ago, and
She's still around?
she is not still around.
I was gonna say, well,
She is
yeah.
not still around.
There was a
I have
woman
another
that-
one on Monday turning
Yeah.
100, and the mayor's coming out with his
Wonderful.
his
Citation,
plaque.
Yeah.
We were riding up in the elevator, and Dean Mazzarella says to me, "What do we talk about?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure. What do you?" "Oh, I know. Ask her most distant memory. 100 years old." So she's going way, way back in the file cabinet. No dementia, clear as a bell. She says, "Well, you know what? I was a really young girl, and I remember when electricity came down my street in Fitchburg."
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
We stood there. I don't know how long we just stood there with our
Yeah,
mouths
what do you
open.
say to that? Wow.
But she was able to open the file cabinet, go all the way back to her
Yeah.
most distant
early
memory.
20s, early 1920s.
Whenever it was, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
she's 100, she was born in 1925.
she was 115 years ago.
100,
15
okay,
years
that was
ago,
even further,
yeah.
okay. So she was back in the early 1900s.
Yeah, I mean, like 02 or something, maybe.
Yeah.
I forget. But anyway, when we sleep, the reason we need a good night's sleep is because that is when our brain goes into
Doing its
maintenance
filing.
Yeah,
mode. Filing.
actually the whole body.
The whole body, but
Your immune
spec-
system works the best when you're sleeping.
right. And I really feel that we're going to find dementia to be an inflammatory disease. But let me finish.
I believe you, I go along with you on that one.
So someone with dementia,
Yeah.
when they go to bed tonight, they're gonna, whatever they remember today goes in the manila folder and the drawer gets closed. But because of the problems, biological problems in their brain, and particularly the hippocampus, they are not going to be able to cement those memories in,
Right. Okay.
okay? So tomorrow morning, they're gonna wake up, open up that drawer, and yesterday is not there. Parts of it maybe,
Right.
right? Because they're waking up at sunrise, it's like, it's their furniture. Okay, this is my apartment, okay, I'm good. But not a lot of detail.
Right.
But prior to the dementia, when they could go to sleep at night, get those memories cemented in, all those memories are still there. So I may have a resident that is 90 years old that is looking for her mother
Right.
at 5 o'clock at night
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
because she does not know that some number of years ago her mother passed.
I've heard that, they go back to looking for people in their past. Family members, parents, and they actually believe that they're there.
And that's a big, that is a very big deal, because how you provide care for someone with Alzheimer's disease, any kind of dementia, is very important. We call it joining their journey.
Yes. Enter their world.
They, in their mind,
Yeah.
they're correct.
Yes.
They're right. They need to go home to get their kids off. They're 90 years old. They think they need to go home and get their kids
Yeah.
off the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're going to agree with it. And
You're
yes.
going to validate that. We use it's called validation. It's a special technique. There's not a lot of people trained in it. But we're not just going to go, "Oh, Sally, come on, let's go have a cookie," and try to, because that's not dealing with what's at the core of
Right.
their anxiety, and that's what it is. So how do we do that? And it's not by diversion or distraction. It's by validating their feelings. And it takes a lot of time. It's a multi-day class to go through, but caregivers, non-professional caregivers are doing their best. But I find when it's a spouse or an adult child, it's like, Mom, you know Dad has been dead for 20 years.
And for that that senior, it's like hearing it for the first time. And so all the emotions come.
Dad is dead?
Yes, exactly.
What happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got to start the grieving process
Right.
all over again. All over
Exactly.
again.
It's very
So,
sad.
although really, with all the best intent in the world to take care of Mom, it's not always the best. It's not always the best option or the best choice.
But
Yeah,
caregivers have a hard time because they feel like they're lying to their
Right.
loved one. You're not lying. You're actually protecting and making them feel safe. And so,
Can they illusion something there that isn't there?
So there are different types of different dementia diagnoses where hallucinations are very pronounced.
They could illusion that a spouse
Yep.
who died 10 years ago is still there. Or
But
if they look in the mirror, do they illusion themselves as being younger?
yes. Yep.
Well, that's gotta
They
be
may
unbelievable.
see somebody out on the roof.
Right.
A lot of times
Yeah.
they'll see somebody in unsafe situations or adversarial situations. They will see themselves as being an age they remember.
right.
You know, if they remember their career as a telephone operator at Ma Bell,
Mhm.
they look in the mirror and they see themselves at that age.
Right.
Our brain is so powerful, but it's like any other technology. It's great when it works,
Yes,
but when it doesn't, oh man, you sometimes you just don't know what to expect. And that's the other thing. You got to go with the flow. Don't try to be right if you're the caregiver. Join their journey, and it's okay. You know, as long as it's safe,
right.
it's okay.
Right.
Yeah, I was told, let them enjoy themselves.
Yes.
It's a part of aging and part of passing.
I tell families all the time, our big objective today is to help your mom or dad or your loved one have a good day,
Yes,
have a pleasant day. That at some level, at the end of the day, they're going to be tired. They may not remember everything that day, but when they put their head on the pillow, they're going to think, I had a pleasant day. This was a good day.
You're giving them quality.
Quality and dignity.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
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 And they may not have had that. Well, I'm not going to say they didn't have that, but coming to being in a facility like yours is something that can be helpful, or is helpful for the caregivers, but most importantly for the senior, to give them that dignity and some good days
Right.
for the days that they have.
Yeah, I think for all of us at any age, but particularly as we get older, it's important to front load the quality of our life.
Right.
You know, if you're 20, you don't want to like burn the candle at both ends. You need to have some sustainability there, but and you need to plan for the future. But when you can count your future on one or two hands, and the longevity of someone after an Alzheimer's diagnosis is typically 4 or 5 years.
Right.
They can go 20, but typically 4 or 5. When you can count
Depends on when diagnosed too.
Correct.
Yeah.
It depends, right.
Right.
And a lot of people don't want to be diagnosed because of the stigma. We could talk about that. But front load the quality of your life. Don't. It really is no longer a dress rehearsal. This is like
This
the
is-
final chapter.
Yeah,
This is
right.
the final act. The curtain's going to come down really quickly, and make it the best you can.
That's right.
Make it the best you can, wherever you are.
Right.
but
So
one of
yeah.
the things, as you age, you gotta keep yourself busy.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your mind. If you look at some of these politicians that are in their 80s and 90s and they retire from the Senate or the House or wherever, all of a sudden they age overnight. Because
Their
now they no
purpose-
longer have a purpose.
Their purpose is changed.
Yeah,
They're out of their routine.
yeah. Retirement
Yeah, it's
is
hard.
not the way to go. And by retirement, don't do anything anymore.
Just don't stop. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
Find-
that's one thing that we haven't talked about. You know, we've talked about diet, exercise, sleep. The one thing we really haven't talked about, which is probably as important as any of those, is socialization
Yes.
and engagement, mental activity.
Yes.
Right? If you like to do the New York Times crossword puzzle, buy 5 of the books and get your friends together and do it together.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Evolutionarily, we are committed to spending face-to-face time.
Right.
And a screen is okay. FaceTime or Zoom or something is okay.
It's still a
not as
connection.
good.
But it's a connection.
But as long as you can see the eyes and the nose of the person, you are making a human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And the socialization is as important as anything else.
Definitely.
As anything else. And that goes all the way back to childhood. All the way back to childhood. Because you form those habits then, right?
Right.
The kids you see now, they already have the hunch.
Yeah.
Because what are they doing? They're doing
They're on the
this all the
phone all the
time.
time, yeah.
Right? The habits that you can start earlier and cement those into your lifestyle, the better off you are. And socialization is huge.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, to your point about the younger generation that we see now, there's a concern
There is.
that there's too much of this
Well,
and not enough of this.
and they're in
That
the back seat together, and
they're
they're not
texting
talking,
each
they're
other.
texting.
Yes,
Come on.
yes. So
Like
I
that-
worry, I do worry for that future generation of where they will be with all of, well, maybe there'll be
I mean,
a cure, I don't know.
you've got a cell phone that you can talk physically talk to someone, but no, we don't talk to them, we
We
text them.
text.
Why? Isn't it simpler just to talk?
That,
For you and I, it is,
Yeah.
yes.
we could do a whole nother
Yeah,
segment
we could. That could be a
on,
whole other show.
but no, there are
Well, I
a
think it's
lot
gonna
of,
bring on an epidemic of Alzheimer's because the way we're not socializing anymore.
It's gonna bring something.
we, at the Alzheimer's Association, we now consider Alzheimer's disease a public health crisis.
Yeah,
It is an epidemic.
Yes.
When you say that, when I get into a room, let's say I'm delivering a presentation, and everybody in the room generally appears to be 65 or older. I can say, look to your left, look to your right. One of the three of you will have dementia. Statistically true.
Right. It's true. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Huh.
Scary.
well,
It's
you
a-
probably see it on a regular basis, Kelly, because you're dealing with a lot of seniors every day.
And caregivers that
And caregivers.
seek us out.
That need support.
And saying, you know, mom is having behavior changes. Where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah.
Then I have others who are in denial.
Oh, yeah.
Because I will be the one calling saying, hey, I'm seeing some behavior changes in mom and dad. Oh, no, she's fine. She's, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's always a little dance.
Well, the denial, they don't want to deal with it. So let's just deny it and it'll go away.
And it will. It will.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't.
Nothing goes away.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
and it only gets worse, so why not deal with it sooner rather than later?
Right.
Because the sooner you deal with it, the sooner you can get educated, you can get it under
Some
control
care.
to whatever
Yeah.
level you can. But as a public health emergency, in 2024, we estimate that Alzheimer's and other dementias will cost this country, not worldwide, just this country, $360 billion. By 2050, because the incidence will be so much higher, it's going to cost $1 trillion. That does not include free care by caregivers at home
Right.
or in other locations.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the people in assisted livings, the people in nursing homes, the in whatever setting they're in as a
Right.
paid setting, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, another provider, commercial insurance,
Right.
$1 trillion.
Wow. Wow.
And there are things we can do to prevent that from happening, right?
All those
Early
things,
early
yeah.
recognition and
Yeah.
lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good correlation studies, not causation, but correlation, that shows we start to develop tendencies for dementia in utero, in the womb. That if the mother is a smoker and if it's a low birth weight baby, researchers have gone back and looked at that data and said, these people have a higher incidence.
Oh, we got a
Oh,
call.
we get a call.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
Oh,
They want to hear.
Go ahead,
they want
caller,
to speak
you're
to
on.
you.
Yeah, Harry.
Yes.
I had to listen because you know my situation.
Yes. His wife just died from,
And I've been listening to this gentleman, and I found that my wife, it took like 5 years where I first saw something happening. And she had like a seizure. And we took her to Milford Hospital, and they recommended to go to a neurologist. They did an MRI, and they found on the MRI that she had some mini strokes. They could actually, I don't know, they could see it, I guess. And we went from there, but you know, she went fast.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Anyone there?
My condolences on your wife. Do you know what her specific dementia
I can't hear you.
diagnosis was?
You can't hear us.
can you hear us? Ralph?
Did he hang up?
Yeah, I think he hung up.
Well, Ralph, if you're listening,
Well, he's listening.
yeah, he's listening. So
So Ralph, my condolences. That's a very difficult.
He took
Road.
care of her at home, too.
That's a very difficult road to travel. It is. It's just completely wearing. I wonder if your wife was diagnosed with vascular dementia, which is not as prevalent, but still a decent piece of the pie, where the blood vessels in the brain are sort of the primary culprit. And that's another indication of how closely heart health and brain health are
Yes.
linked. Because, just something, it's one factor. Something as simple as uncontrolled LDL cholesterol, low density lipoprotein cholesterol. And we all know the L is the lousy one.
Right.
That's how I remember it.
That's a good way to do it, yeah.
High density, happy.
Oh, good, yes.
High density, happy,
Yeah,
happy
happy.
cholesterol.
Yeah.
You need that kind. That's the kind that's in every cell in your
Yes.
body. The bad kind, the LDL, is an indication of dementia.
Right.
People with uncontrolled LDL.
And here again, all diet.
LDL has a big exercise component too.
Yes.
But diet and
Yeah.
and exercise, right?
Yeah.
If we all got, okay, if you go to college, be wild, be crazy, but as soon as you graduate, you got to buckle down,
Get
do all
your
the right
stuff
things.
together.
Get your act together,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? And try to undo those last
Right?
4 years.
Exactly.
As you
You
get
had
older,
fun,
you gotta,
but the
you
fun's
gotta change your
over.
lifestyle as you get older.
Yeah.
And the sooner you do it, the
Yeah.
better.
The better,
But
yeah.
but Ralph, if it's still an issue for you, I want you to reach out to alz.org. Look for caregiver support. After passing support, and don't hesitate to call the 800 number that's there, because they'll answer it 24/7, and they are really, really well trained and very empathetic people.
You know, I mean, he lived with his wife for, had to be over 60 years.
Right.
When you
That's
lose
hard.
someone like that, you've been together all those years.
Yeah,
It's really,
it's very
It's
difficult.
like you're losing your own life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that at Sunrise, I do have couples that live in reminiscence.
Nice.
The husband or the wife knows they can't do it on their own, but they don't want to leave their spouse.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they can still live together.
Right.
And the
is
one
great.
without dementia can come and go as they want.
Exactly.
Knowing
Yeah,
that
there's someone there to keep an eye on.
there's somebody
the other
there to
one.
keep an eye on them. I have another couple, he keeps a separate apartment in assisted living. He just has a nice little studio.
Yeah.
Most nights he sleeps with his wife
Yeah.
in her apartment in memory care.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
But one of the other things that, as I was talking about in 2050 being $1 trillion, these are very complicated, regulated, and expensive businesses to maintain.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is not inexpensive to be in our reminiscence neighborhood.
No.
It's when somebody calls or somebody asks me, I said, in round numbers, figure $9,000 or $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I, it's that shocked look of, like, I remember when electricity came down my street in Fitchburg. It's that same look. How do I do that? Especially if the couple is still both there.
Right.
Because the one without is thinking, oh my God, I want to take care of my wife. And I think that's the best thing. But we all have a limited pot of money. Most
Right,
of us, right?
You know, in
there's
some
long-term-
cases, they sell a home or something like that.
Yes.
Right. Well, as soon as we retire, or we stop accumulating wealth,
Income,
we
right.
start spending it.
Right. Yeah.
What I'm saying is this portion is spending it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But again, it's front-loading the quality of life.
That's right.
And I like to think of my team as being more consultants. Let us help you through this process. If it looks like Sunrise is the best place for you, we'll tell you that.
Right.
If it doesn't, we'll tell you that too.
Yep.
There aren't not a lot of other great options.
No, they're right.
But you make the best with the hand you're dealt.
That's right.
Right.
And it's sometimes helpful to point out to folks that wherever you are caring for your loved one is going to cost you money.
Oh, yes.
Wherever.
Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what roof you are under. It is going to cost a lot. So
Even if you're at home.
it's the reality. Exactly.
Right. Oh, there are costs associated with being at home, certainly.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
Kelly,
could be the
we're-
cost of the caregiver too.
We're running low
And
on
that's another
time.
issue.
Why
Yes.
don't you make your announcements?
Okay. So
A lot of things coming up.
yes, and a lot of things have been happening.
Yeah.
And so we are in the beginning of October. So as you know, our newsletter is the bi-monthly. So if you still have a copy of your October newsletter, then that is still current. And please, peruse through that and see if there's anything that you want to attend. We still do have tickets for the Halloween party. That's always a fun event. So please come on down and purchase your ticket for that. We also are having, one big announcement is there's been a little bit of a change in my team. In late August, we lost, we didn't lose, but she retired, our outreach worker, Jean White. She left us did she leave us in June? And then in August, we did appoint a new outreach worker. Her name is Lori Gannon. She is with us 3 days a week. And while she has not had a lot of experience in working as an outreach worker, she had been a volunteer for us for a little over a year. So she had that kind of in her favor, that she just walked in and was comfortable with answering the phone already. But she is a very bright, knowledgeable woman who comes with experience in the education field. And so she has really been catching on, and I call her my little sponge. She's just understanding everything and learning the processes, and just really been kind and empathetic to the folks that come through our door, because when they're seeking out the outreach office, it's usually because they're either in crisis or about to be in crisis. So we're very thankful to have Lori with us. But with that came a little bit of a change in Amy's schedule. So Amy is our program volunteer coordinator, and I shifted her schedule a little bit. I gave her a little bit more hours, and she's with us 3 full days. She's with us Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So with that, her programming and events have gone to a different level, that she has had a lot of educational programs on Wednesday and Thursday mornings, which has been a nice addition to our regular schedule. We do have the Veterans Day breakfast coming up.
Yes.
And so I have Harry's
My
personal invitation here. And I know that he will be joining us that day, right, Harry?
I already told Amy
Okay.
I will come in
Oh.
and play taps.
And it looks like you will be able to?
Yes, I
Oh,
will be
good.
able, I will
Well, that's
play-
good, because you're on the program.
Yes, to play taps.
So this is open to,
I'm the official bugler of the American
you are.
Legion.
So there's your itinerary there.
Oh,
So the Senior Veterans Day breakfast, Thursday, November 7th. So we're going to do it right before the actual holiday, and it will be at our facility, Plummer Place. And due to space constraints of our dining room, Northbridge veterans have priority. There's a 2-ticket limit, so 2 tickets per person. And it's just for veterans. A lot of people ask if they can bring their spouse. If their spouse is a veteran, then yes. But if not, we're gonna have to say no. We have to really keep it, the numbers,
Right.
tight for that. So there
There's
is
a lot
the
of women
flyer.
veterans now.
There are, and we did have quite a few last year at the breakfast. So I hope they
Yeah.
join us again. And it's a great event, and we're looking forward to that. And we've got some great sponsorship, some of the repeat sponsors, and a couple of new sponsors you'll see on the bottom there.
Oh, okay.
So that's nice.
Yes.
And but again, lots of things happening, and the purpose of your local senior center is to engage you, keep you active, and as we were speaking about so many things that you can do to enhance your, not only your quality of life, but to keep your health and heart happy and your brain going.
Right.
Yep.
All those things, and then we can help you with that as well. So don't sit at home. Don't isolate yourself. Come on out. Come see us. We've got a lot going on. So I hope to see you soon.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow morning because we have the.
Oh, you are? I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but since you are, great. Dull Men's Club.
Yes.
So it's an
Ah.
official, it's an official thing in Massachusetts, and you
Yes.
guys were the 9th group that formed.
Yeah,
I think you're number 9. Great group of guys that sit around and talk about some great topics. Not religion or politics.
no politics, no religion.
Especially right now, Harry,
That's-
please.
Right. That's
No.
why it's a dull men's.
That's why it's going to be dull. But some nice breakfast treats
I think we
tomorrow
have a
morning.
firefighter coming in tomorrow to talk about the new fire station.
Oh, good.
Oh.
Oh, good. Because I do have to talk about someone needing.
Yeah. First guest was my nephew.
Yes, and
Came
they
in-
loved
in the
him.
rubbish business. He came in and talked about
Recycling,
recycling
Oh.
and how to rubbish. The rubbish business has changed a lot.
very much so.
Yeah.
They loved that. In fact, I think Amy wants to even have him back for a general presentation for folks, because that was very
Yeah, he
interesting.
took it over from his father and
Yeah.
continued.
The leader of our Dull Men's group in Sterling, where I live.
Oh,
Oh,
you have one.
I was in the driveway doing something on the truck broke, and he stopped by. Paul, how you doing? I want to have you come talk. I heard a lot about your talks. I said, okay, how many people? Well, somewhere between 20 and 70
Wow, I got a big group.
In Sterling?
in Sterling.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
great senior center director. I mean,
Yes.
that's what it really comes down to,
Yeah.
is the leader. And for those of you listening, if you don't go to the senior center, go once a month.
Yep.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
Not just once, a handful of months. If you go once a month, go twice. It's good for your health. It is exceptionally good for your health. You don't want to be a hermit. You don't want to be alone. You want to be around other people, and
Yeah.
particularly your peers. You want to be around other people that you can talk to, that know what you're talking about. If you say Bing Crosby, you want to be around the right group.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, we got to wrap it up.
Thank you so much for that plug.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, we'll see you next week. We have, we're back to All About the Valley. I have a historic commission coming in to talk about the house we want to put on the register.
Oh, good.
Oh.
Yes, right
Yeah.
before we vote, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, good,
the Arthur Whiten House
good.
on Linwood Avenue.
Okay.